So I'm really happy that you're on today. For everybody who is listening or watching, I'm on with Tina from just a myriad of platforms. You could find her on Insta at TBR, etc. You can also now find her on YouTube at TBR, etc. She also has her podcast, which is called Book Talk, etc., which is awesome. So I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad you agreed to do this with me because you're always so much fun anyway, and we can just gab our faces off.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me here. I'm so excited.
The first thing I have to ask, because I know like the YouTube thing has been a new deal for you. So how's it going?
I love it. I don't know. I just think it's so fun. So yes, I'm on YouTube now. I decided to join BookTube in November. Honestly, because I had sort of inklings that TikTok would be going away. And I'm like, I want to do this long form content, or I want to do videos in another format. So I thought this would be a good way to ramp into it. And it looks like I'm right. It looks like it's going through. So in doing so, though, I found I love making the longer videos. It's fun to edit. It's fun to shoot. My biggest issue is finding time where there's not a little child talking in the background. But other than that, I feel so energized from it. I have so many ideas. So now it's just a matter of like actualizing it. But I feel very rejuvenated, and I'm pretty pumped about it.
That's awesome. Yeah, I really enjoy it.
Yeah, because you're all the places too.
Yeah, I just felt like I wanted to talk more about books in the way that I couldn't do with certainly with Instagram, with just taking a picture. And I'm not creative enough to do some like fantastic reel or be lip syncing something.
Right.
So, and my kids were adamant like that at the time that I not go on TikTok. So I started a platform, and then they were like, no. And so now I'm like, well, I wouldn't have invested all this time anyway. So yeah, I just really like it because I just think it's different. It's a different crowd of people.
It is.
It's amazing to me how many people do not cross over, who are really kind of in their lane, which I also think is really interesting.
Mm-hmm. I know, it's interesting. I was trying to think, and certainly I don't know all the creators, but I feel like you and me are both, on Instagram, but we're on YouTube and podcasters as well. Like you don't often see people that are as crazy as us with the need to be in all of the places.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. It's fun. And you're right. It's so different. I feel like we get to do different things with each of them.
All right. So today Tina's on with me to talk about some of our runners up because, everybody in the world and everything in the world is doing best of lists and wrap up lists. And I actually got a Starbucks wrap up today. And I was like, really? You need to tell me how many lattes I ordered for my daughter? I mean,
yeah, right. You're like, ooh, I don't know if I need that. I'm glad Duncan doesn't do that because it would be an embarrassment.
Yeah. And I had a moment though with Starbucks today because I don't usually get Starbucks. I mean, because it's just so damn expensive now. However, I did the other day, I was saying to my son, I can't believe they don't do the gingerbread latte anymore because that was the one thing I used to love. And he was like, what are you talking about? They totally have the gingerbread latte. And so I got it, right? And I got one this morning and then I have to stop. But I did realize like you are in a much better position if you're ordering the hot versus the cold because the ice takes up so much space.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. And I'm a cold drinker. So you're getting more bang for your buck, I think. You're right.
And you do have to pay if you want less ice. You pay for that.
Wait, is that true? I thought you were just like making that up.
That's absolutely true. No, that's absolutely true. Like if you're like light ice, they charge you like 50 cents more because they have to put more drink in.
Wow.
Yeah, interesting. Anyway, okay, I'm digressing. All right, so we're talking some of our runner-ups because everybody is doing their top 10 lists, their best of lists, all of those kind of things. I was so curious, like how much stock do you put in to best of lists?
I love them. I watch them like a hawk. I'm obsessed truly with end of year content, like whatever it is. I want to know. I just like looking back. I like looking back myself. I'm curious to see my favorite recommendation sources, what books they loved. But I don't always put that much, like, I don't believe they always get it right. Not the personal creators, but for example, like the New York Times 10 best books of 2024. I was so shocked by it. I was like, huh?
Agree.
Really? Yeah. But some other lists, I think I'm like, oh, I've never heard of that one. But the ones I like the most are the personal lists by people like you. You're actually one of my top recommendation sources. And I'm not just saying that because I'm here. But yeah, I like to see what books you all think were like the best of the best. I put together mine. I do a whole thing on Instagram because I think it's fun. I don't know.
I do
I think
too.
they're a good time. You like them,
Yeah, I
right?
agree. No, I do, and it's gotten better and better. I mean, I was thinking back when I was young, the only thing there was a best of is Life magazine and People magazine. Like that was it. Or like New York
Yeah,
Times, sure, but
right.
I wasn't
We weren't in
conscious
there.
of books to that
Mm-hmm.
capacity. That was no, but I used to wait for that year-end yearbook issue of Life magazine to like the year that was. I love that. So I'm like you. I love to look back. And I also what I find fascinating, especially with like books or music, is the stuff that you read in the beginning of the year and how
Yeah,
if that's held up and how what's you've maintained for the whole year, which to me is kind of how I start to construct a list. I'm like, what is still resonating with me
yeah.
maybe 12 months later, because it's always easy if you it's like the big movies that come out of Christmas, we're like, okay, well they'll be the Oscar noms, but it's only because that's what you've just seen.
Mm-hmm. It's recency bias. It's so funny you said that because
Yeah.
I have a big spreadsheet. That's how I keep track, but I'm not good at keeping track in the moment. So I had to go back over the weekend and do this for like hours, but it was really fun. But in doing so, I'm like, you rated that 5 stars? I don't think so. Like I found myself
Yes.
rethinking my ratings and going back into Goodreads and fixing them because I'm like, you know, sometimes when I rate a book right after I have read it, I'm like, this was amazing. And then I come back, I'm like, was it really though? You know, and I'm a little more critical, I think, the further away I get. And the ones that keep the 5 star, those are the ones that are on this list.
I completely agree with you. Like I really start to think about what has resonated and what
Yeah.
am I still thinking about now and what do I remember enough of, because like we end up reading so much
Yes.
and you remember plot points maybe or things, but if I can hold on to a large portion of the book, then I'm like, that was a freaking great book, that was a
Mm-hmm.
great book, and that was a memorable book, and that was something that you know hit all the points for me. I'm also finding as I continue and go on like my reading journey, I'm starting to determine what I like more and what I respond to more and the type of books that are the things that resonate for me too.
Mm-hmm. Same. Even as, you know, because you've been on Instagram or sharing books for a while. Did you start in 2020?
Was that when the lockdown happened?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was around the lockdown. Yeah.
Yeah.
Was that when that happened? Yeah. It was right around then. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
started to like move. I had a personal account that I just slowly just started to turn into books
Yeah.
and then kind of
And here
renamed
we
it.
are. I know. And I've been doing this since I think 2016. And boy, has my reading
Wow.
changed. I know. I know. But it's in a really good way. Like I feel like I'm really good at now knowing what I like. I'm also very consistent, which has been cool to
Mm.
study. So I always recommend everybody track their reading, even if they're not like a reviewer, because it's such fun. Well, maybe, maybe not, but I think it's fun data to look at.
So how do you differentiate between what is your best and your runners up?
This was okay. At first, I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to. But then as I was going through my spreadsheet, I'm like, this is way easier than I anticipated because there were so many good ones. There were so many ones that I was thinking were going to be on my socials and on our podcast. I do an overall best 10. That's it. I keep it to 10. And the first time I went through my list, I had 14 favorites. And today we're talking about 2024 books, I believe, by and large.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so
yeah.
some of them, it was easy. I ranked them and I was like, oh my God, it made me sad to take them off the list. But now I'm happy because I get to share them here. But I found this year I had more success with backlist. I was really surprised by that because that I don't think typically
Wow.
happens for me. I have some really good standouts from 24, but a lot that I was like, meh. But I have some good ones to share. It wasn't as hard as I thought, I guess, is what I'm getting at.
Interesting. Yeah, I had a few backlists this year that I absolutely loved. And but I've always wrestled with that every year of like, do you include both? Do you say like best
Yeah.
is best regardless of when it is? And I don't know. And so I've always just stuck to, well, I'll stick to what it is this year. If I ever have a year where I kind of evenly read backlist to front list, maybe I would do like a best backlist. But I did have some really great ones this year. Were there any surprises for you? Like things that you thought would get on the list and didn't?
Yeah, I was actually surprised. So I guess I was surprised when I was going into my reading experience with them. You know how you just pick up a book and I'm like, this is going to be for me. I know I'm going to enjoy this.
Hmm.
Two came off the top of my head. Two that came to the top of my head is the new Kimmy Cunningham Grant, The Nature of
Mm.
Disappearing. I was ready. I loved her book, The Silent Woods. I was like, I love her writing. This is going to be awesome. And it was fine. It was not great for me. So I was sad about that. Also, Blue Sisters by Coco Mellors. I thought for sure I was
Oh,
going to love because I love a sister story. It was being comped to Hello Beautiful by Anna Napolitano, and I thought for sure it would be for me. I did not care for it in the way that I thought I expected to. I didn't like the queer representation. There were some other like squabbles I had with it. So those were just fine. But surprised
it's
because I
interesting
thought they'd
because
be 5 stars.
you're the second person now. Yesterday, I forget who's was doing a monthly wrap up or something, and they said the same thing about the Coco. They were like, it was fine, but
Yeah,
just it was okay, and I
it was all
expected it to
right.
be.
Yeah.
I haven't read them. I haven't read either one of them. I have both of them. Okay, so my last thing, and then I want to get into it. Now, do you give
Yeah.
yourself a cutoff? Do you give yourself a cutoff of like this is what it, and I'm moving on?
Yeah, I should. I really should. For content, technically, yes. My cutoff is the, day we record our final podcast episode of the year. This year we're recording on December 27th, so it's pretty late.
Wow. Oh,
So
that's perfect. That's perfect.
I'm going to keep it going. I love to read, until the very last moment, but it's been hard because I sampled some 2025 books that I really enjoyed, but I'm trying to keep them until next year because I'm weird and I'm like, what if they're a favorite of the year? I don't want them in this year's favorites anyway. So my first read for 25 is going to be Wild Dark Shore by Charlotte McConaughey. I'm so excited, but
I
I'm
just got
saving it.
it
You did.
yesterday.
Yeah. I got a copy too. And I was like, I like gasped because I wasn't expecting it to come through, but I'm going to read that in January, even though it comes out in March.
I have a spreadsheet of like a whole 2025 schedule already up through April or May with books
That's
that I'm trying to
awesome.
end people.
That's really cool.
But it again, sometimes I'm now have to read January to stay ahead. Like, and I'm going to listen to the new Alice Feeney to see if I want to do that. Or did you?
Yeah. I have not. That's in my 2025 bucket. I hear it's really good, and I'm critical with Alice Feeney. So, but when she's good, she's really good. Anyway,
Okay, so back to normal
back
programming.
in.
So let's get into them. So
Okay.
otherwise, I'll keep you here all day.
Truly.
So I'll let you go first, and then I'll go.
All right. So this list, these are ones that I highly recommend. I love them. I think one or two I got from you as a recommendation, so I'm not surprised by that. But on our podcast, Book Talk, etc., we do an overall top 10. So for these, I just kept it to 2024. These are ones I would happily have in my top 10, but a few just eked them out. The first one I'll recommend is What Happened to Nina by Dervla McTiernan. And I'm really mad
Mm,
that this got snubbed on the Goodreads Choice Awards for mystery thriller because it's one of the best thrillers I read this year and in many years. It's about this college couple that goes on a road trip across the US and only the son comes back. And you hear, sort of both families and what they're processing and what they want to go through to protect their kids. This one is so complex. It's infuriating. It's surprising. If you like thrillers, like I feel like this one is a must read for people who like this genre.
wow, that sounds amazing.
It's really, I'm mad about it still. Not because the book's bad, but because she made me feel so like activated for these characters. And like you said, if you can remember plot points or if I can remember plot points, that's how I know it's a good one. And I know most of what happens in this.
Oh, I love that. Um, okay, my first one is Sandwich by Catherine Newman. It's almost like a slip of a novel about a family that every year goes to like a New England beach town to get together, and it's what we were talking about at the beginning of this conversation about kind of a sandwich generation of
Yep.
raising. They have college and just graduated college kids, and then parents. Um, it is so, it's like a big freaking hug. And I loved it so much. I'm also a little obsessed with Catherine Newman just as a writer and a person because I think she is, first of all, she's so freaking hilarious. And a lot of that comes through the book. And I wouldn't say it's autofiction necessarily, but it's certainly heavily influenced by her life. So it's just a wonderful family story that is really beautiful. I loved it.
That one I need to read. I didn't get to it this year, and I should have. I was like, it's buzzy. People, at the point when it got on my radar, it was so buzzy. I was like, I'll try it again someday. But
Yeah, I understand that.
yes, but speaking of a buzzy book that I think is worth the buzz, it's Margot's Got Money Troubles, Rufy Thorpe. And is that on your list, Brett?
It might be on one of my lists.
You didn't?
Yes.
Did you not
No, I
like it?
said it might be on one of my lists because
Gotcha.
I'm
Mhm.
like, yeah.
Okay. You liked it. Did you not?
I loved it. I
Okay, okay.
loved
I
it.
was like trying to get a
Yes,
read. I'm
I
like, is it on
loved
I
it.
hated this fucking book list or what? But no,
No, no,
um,
I loved it.
I loved it too. It's funny. And truly, it probably should be on my top 10 list because it's just Margot is such a great character. It is unique.
Great
It's about a
character.
woman who's trying to navigate single motherhood in very modern ways. And I think Ruthie Thorpe did such great justice to the industry that she gets in. I feel like she did great research for it. It's very respectful and it's funny. It's a funny, complex, great story. And I just love her as an author.
Oh my God, I'm with you 100%. And I just thought it was knocked out of the park. She is a delight again. And I'm also, you probably know this, Apple TV is developing as a series, and
Yes.
it's Elle Fanning is playing her, who also narrates the book.
Yes.
But
Yes.
Nicole Kidman is supposed to be her mother. Michelle Pfeiffer is playing. Now I've heard different things. I've heard Michelle Pfeiffer might be the mom and Nicole Kidman might be something else. And then Nick Offerman is her dad,
Oh,
who
is
couldn't
Jinx.
be more perfect as
Yeah.
casting.
That's great.
So yeah, I'm really, really, really. That's going to be on Apple TV next year, and David Kelly is writing it. So but it's a great. I agree. It's again weirdly to say it's a feel good book when you
Yeah.
think about what it's about, but she's
Hmm.
such a winning character, and I loved all of the people in that book,
Yeah.
just all of
Same.
them.
Oh, I can't wait to see the adaptation. I had forgotten. So I'm glad you mentioned that.
My next one had been out in Europe, the UK the year before, but just came out here this year, which was Claire Kilroy's Soldier Sailor, which I thought this was so fantastic. And having never been a mom and never had that, you could speak to this, but I do know what it's like to be a parent and a parent of a small child, and the kind of relentlessness that takes place with a child when they're a baby, but also in this book as she's, dealing with a husband who may not be as attentive, and feeling like she's shouldering the burden all by herself. And it's almost written like a thriller to see what this woman goes through. And it's one of those books that you can almost sit down in one reading and I found myself weeping at times. It's almost something I would give to any new parent and say, you should
Really?
read this book,
I.
because I think it's a really identifiable kind of
Mhm.
narrative.
I'm scared of it. I'm like, am I too close to it? My baby's now 1. Actually, she's 15 months. So we just had her appointment. So I know that. But I'm like, is this going to like make me feel good and seen, or is it going to make me sad? Because it's so.
I don't think it'll make you feel sad. I
Okay.
don't. And it's not a
And I
sad
like to be
book.
sad though. So who knows? I like
Yeah. I
sad
mean, I
books, I
think
should say.
I love a sad book. I love to be a book that makes me cry. But I think ultimately, no, it's such a testament to motherhood and the resilience of mothers,
Okay.
frankly, to kind of get through this. So no, I think you dig it.
All right. I get it back on my list. Now, my next one is criminally underrated. It is Dixon Descending by Karen Oaten.
I don't know
And
this.
yeah, it's a debut, and it's about this man, and it's about 2 brothers, basically. And Dixon used to be an Olympic runner. He's now a school psychologist, and his brother is very charming, very charismatic, and he's like, let's do it. Let's be the first Black American men to summit Mount Everest. And so they train for it, and they go up there and try and do it. This book is so emotional. It is gosh, it'll make you feel. I read this back in, I want to say February. I still remember it. And I think it's perfect for winter because obviously it takes place on Everest, but also like before and after. So you get to know these characters so fully. I think this one's really good. And it only has like, I want to say less than 2,000 reviews on Goodreads, which makes me mad because it's so good. But maybe I'll get more now.
Yeah. Okay, my next one. This is again. It's such a weird thing. I talk about surprises, and I anticipated originally when I first was going to read this year. I was like, this will be one of my top 10 of the year for sure. And I have to say, I really love this, but it did get knocked out. But I do think it's worth mentioning, which is All the Colors of the Dark by Chris Whitaker. It is epic. It is just an epic book. It involves a serial killer. It involves 2 childhood friends and their life. Like, there was a point in the book, I think it was like 90 pages in, I was like, well, what the hell can happen now? Because so much had already taken place, and it just kind of kept going. And again, I was so incredibly moved by parts of this. I think it's just a great, epic, immersive story. Again, this is something, I don't say this about anything, but this is something I would love to see adapted. And I think it's going to be, but I would love to see, how they adapt this.
Yeah. I tried it. I didn't, I'm like the only person that didn't love it, I feel.
And I don't think you're the only one.
Yeah, I think, and I hate to be a because I tried it. I remember where I was. I tried it in multiple formats. It just didn't work. But I'm loving that it worked for so many. Usually I'm with the majority, but I'm like, in this case, it just didn't land in where I thought it would. I did DNF it though. So maybe I'll go back someday if I can be convinced to.
Yeah, sure.
Next for me is There's Always This Year on Basketball and Ascension by
Mm.
Hanif Abdurraqib. This is the one I know I got from you. And I've tried to describe this so many times now, and I find it sort of difficult to do so because it takes on a lot. It's about basketball, yes, but it's also a memoir. It's about people and, who deserve to be heroes. It's about who deserves to be success. It's about teammates, and it's just such an interesting story. I love sports. I love athletics, and I think he just did a really good job, sort of balancing. He's a poet, and that's all I can say about it. It's poetry, and I just thought it was so compelling. I did the audio, and I could have sat for another 8 hours and listened to more from him.
I 100% with you. Like, listen, I'm at a loss for words because I think Hanif is just such a gift, and that's what I've said. That's the only way I can describe him. And I've told so many people about him because I think he's so brilliant and I think he's so special. And first of all, I'm so glad that you listened to the audio, because I listened to the audio too, and then I had to have the books.
Yes.
So I usually at times would even read along with him because his voice is so incredible, first of all. And in fact, when I got this book, I wanted a signed copy of it because he was not in any event near me, but I was like, I just have to have a signed copy of it because I feel like he is truly a gift. And Little Devils, his previous book, was another one, and then that came out. That was the first thing I had read by him, and I was like, who is this guy? I cannot get over the way his mind works. And what I love too is like you said, it is about basketball, but it's not. I feel like he uses the game as an entry point into the larger story that he's getting at. So you don't need to be a basketball fan to appreciate the book. Certainly if you are, then you're going to be like, oh my God. But because I don't follow basketball, and I was totally with it. I endorse this 100%. I think like
perfect.
I can't, like, I scream from the mountaintops, like he is a freaking genius.
Yeah. That's what I said too. I'm like, this man's a genius. How do you think like this? Like, I just sit there, and it's one of those books I didn't find myself critiquing as I was reading or like evaluating or reviewing in my head. I'm just like, this is great. I'm having such a good time listening to this.
Yeah, he's somebody too who I would love to sit down with, but I'd be terrified to sit down with because I'm afraid that I would be tongue-tied or just start crying.
Yeah,
like one of the two things.
Same.
Do you know what I mean?
I need people that are on our level. Like, I'm not trying to I'll be intimidated.
I feel like I would just be apologizing for how stupid I am, and probably I would just be like apologizing and crying.
Right, and he'd be like, "This was great,"
and I'm sure he's like lovely. I'm sure he seems like that's the greatest. You know what I mean? Anyway. Okay, my next one is Housemates by Emma Copley Eisenberg. This book completely surprised me. And I, like, if you had said to me, one of your favorite books this year is going to be about two lesbians on a road trip, I'd be like, wait, what?
Say what now?
But I just was like, first of all, debut. And for me, like 2024 has been the year of the debut. And I've like so many of my favorite books this year are debuts. And this was one of them. It's about these two women who are in a larger house share. And one of them is a photographer, the other is a journalist. And the photographer, when she was in college, her professor, who was very problematic and had been like Me Too'd, he ends up dying. And so in his will, he leaves her all of his equipment and effects, effectively. So she and her roommate go on a road trip, and the journalist is going to kind of write the story about it while she documents it with photographs and what happens between the two of them. It is so incredibly beautiful. It's also really interesting because the protagonist is overweight, and that's a big part of the story and the narrative. And Emma Copley Eisenberg very much wanted to put a character front and center who wasn't this, pretty trim, who was an overweight and very overweight woman. Again, beautiful characters. I love a good character-driven novel, and this was one of the best. I just thought it was fantastic.
I am definitely going to read that. I'm so surprised to find this on your list, not in a bad way, but like you said, like I just don't think that I would have expected it on your almost made it list. So I'm glad that we're doing this so we get to
It
spotlight
was a
some of these
big it
titles.
was a big year for lesbians for me.
No, literally same though. Literally same.
Yeah,
The book I just finished, it's cracked my top 10. It's Fingersmith, Sarah Waters. Obviously, you've read it, but
I haven't read it.
Brett, come on. Come
I
on.
haven't read it. Oh my God, I got to write it down. No.
It's so good. It's put it this way, my neighbors across the street, they were like, "Oh, you went shopping. What did you buy?" And I said, "Oh, Fingersmith. Have you read it?" And my neighbor goes, "Tina, I'm a lesbian. Of course, I've read Fingersmith." I said, "Oh, well, damn, I didn't know. I didn't know it was a seminal text." So I just finished it literally like an hour ago, and it's so incredible. Think The Safe Keep. Like they could be
Okay.
sisters. And
Okay.
anyway,
Okay.
it's incredible.
Oh my God. Oh my God. I'm going to look for it after this.
Oh my
Oh
God,
my
you've
God.
got to read
Okay.
it. Okay. Speaking of lesbians, though, it's so funny that you had this book on your list because my last almost made it is Here We Go Again by Alison Cochrane about two lesbians who take a
Okay.
road trip. And so, yeah. And this one is a queer rom com, which for me, I am not a rom com girl, but this one is so worth it because what they're doing is it's enemies to lovers. They start off, they're both teachers and they kind of hate each other. And you find out they have some history, but they're going on this road trip with their dying English teacher and they're taking him back to, I think, his hometown for reasons. But he literally is like, it's a grief novel. He is
Mm.
dying throughout this book, but it sounds heavy and it can be, but it's so funny. They take this road trip, really good banter. If you like steam, it's in here. I just really liked the characters and I liked the character growth. I also loved their English teacher. I think his name was Joe, and I would love an entire book about Joe and his past, but
Mm.
he was this like queer mentor to the two of them. And this book is fabulous. I loved it and I want more people to read it.
Oh my God. That sounds great. And it sounds like the perfect bookend to Housemates.
I know. That's why I was like, wait a minute. We didn't plan that, but I'm glad we've got it.
How many subcategories are like lesbian road trip books?
Apparently there's not zero, you know. But yeah, that one
Yes.
was really I would read Housemates too.
Um, okay, my last one, and this was a weird one because it almost, again, debut, it almost cracked my top 10, is Henry Henry by Alan Bratton. This is an updated version of Shakespeare's Henriade, which I'm sorry, I know a lot of Shakespeare, but I don't know Henriade. So, all you could probably say is, there's kings and things and all that stuff. But um, this is about basically a spoiled rich kid named Henry and his relationship with his father, his relationship with his best friend. It is messy. He is at times a truly unlikable character for the things that he does, but it's also some of it is based on what happens to him. And there's parts of it that are very intense, but not intense like, oh, I can't read this anymore. I just thought it was so fantastic. I happened to listen to this one on audio. The narrator was incredible. I'm one of these people that if I'm reading a book that's set in a foreign country, whether it be, Ireland, England, or something like that, I love to listen to the audio because I
Yeah.
love the accents. I know it's so stupid, but it's almost like I feel like I'm in a play.
Oh,
And
that makes
this is one of those things that enriches the experience for me so much. Like right now, I'm listening to this book, Ordinary Monsters by J.M. Miro. I mean, not Ordinary Monsters, it's the follow-up, Bringer of Dust. And these are fantastic books, which I'm going to do a whole thing about. But the narrator, incredible British voice, and he does all the different voices. So it makes for an audio experience so fantastic. And this is one of those. But it's a really wonderful kind of coming of age story with a really messy protagonist.
adding to the list. I've already added it to my Goodreads. It sounds right up my alley.
I think we hit our 5.
We did hit our 5, yes.
And now I can't wait to see what your rest are. And I can't wait till the end of the month when I get to see your 10.
That's what I
I'm
was
so
thinking about
curious.
you. I was like, I want to know all of them, but we'll wait it out. I like to wait it out. I'm doing a countdown onto my Instagram like I always do.
Same.
I do a dumb selfie. You do too? Yeah? Yeah. I do a dumb selfie with the book, but it's tradition now and I love it. So
yep.
I think I have my top 10. I'm like, I want to read silly stuff that I know won't make the top 10 because like I feel like I don't want, but then why would I, it's complicated being a reader.
No, 100%. And I'm like you. It's like I feel like I'm really trying to hold off. Even my top 10, I have eight solid, like
Yeah.
really eight
Yeah.
solid.
Yeah.
And then I'm kind of trying to figure out, but there are a few more things that I'm trying to read before then that I'm thinking this could crack it. You know what I
Yes.
mean?
Yes.
And so I don't want to get through it and all of a sudden be like, oh, but also this was really good and I'm going to post about it January 1st.
I know. I know. And like, it's a problem. I want to read Martyr because I think I'll really like it, but I'm a little nervous I'll love it. So that's
Yeah, and
as
see, that's
though,
interesting because Martyr I read at the end of
oh,
2023, and
yeah.
so I've already said I can't put it on this year because I had read it
See?
already, and but whatever. The struggle is real,
The struggle
Tina.
is real. We are two of a kind though. It like really makes me happy that we are, in similar
Uh,
spots with this.
we're freaks.
Freaks, love it. But that's why we are in all the places to talk about books. Like we have to be,
No,
right?
we are.
It's the
Yeah,
best.
100%. I mean, it is the best. Well, this has been fantastic. I don't want to keep you longer because I know you have kids and all of the
All
things.
the things.
And
Yes.
are you done with all your shopping for the
I
holidays?
am pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
By and
Wow,
large,
you
done with all
rock.
my shopping. Yeah, unlike me. But I have a problem with hiding the gifts and then forgetting where they are and then forgetting that I bought them. So I have to really do a deep dive because I'm like, I hate wrapping. They're just in boxes around the house. I have to really get it together. But I'm pretty much done
Now, wait.
shopping.
I have to ask you one more thing.
Sure.
Do you do the elf on the shelf?
I do the elf on the shelf, but we're very low key about it. I like the elf. He just or she just moves from different places. Like I don't do like a whole setup, and she drops a little gift in our advent calendar. So like today she got a candy cane. Like it's nothing insane, but I'm a big elf fan. I know a lot of people hate it, but I'm still
Mhm.
for enjoying it. And it's funny every day. Like she just loves it. And one thing we did before the elf came out on December 1st is I put a few more decorations out, and she comes running upstairs, Mommy, Daddy, the elf decorated, funny decorated. Like she was so happy, and like that will stay with me forever. So it's worth like the
I love
little
that.
effort. It's
It's
so
worth those
cute.
months. Yeah, we had a
It
woman
is.
in my kids' elementary school who would do kind of like dioramas every day, like, and there were
Yeah.
multiple elves, and then post
Yeah.
them. And my daughter would come home,
Yeah.
and I would like literally have to set an alarm to remember to go get the elf because there were a few mornings like she'd get up and be like, it's in the same place. And I was like, well, you know what? Sometimes the elf gets tired. And I was like, God
I
damn
know.
yourself.
He just really likes it over here. Right.
I know. I
I know.
really would. I just got to the point where I was like, when do we outgrow this? Like, oh,
Yes.
it
I
was
could see that. And my kid's 4. So like we're very new to it. But her friend doesn't do the elf. And she came over and Lily was talking all about it. And the little girl was like, Mom, why don't we have an elf? And the mom goes, we don't let Faye into our home. Was like, what a wild answer. But like also the little girl was like, yeah, okay, like totally accepted it. And now she comes over and she'll be like, oh, there she is. And like, whatever. It's just
right,
whimsical and
right.
fun.
These devil worshippers next door, they have an elf though.
We don't let Faye into our home. Serious as can be. I was like, oh my gosh, well,
That is so
so
genius.
funny.
And also, we're not going to see Wicked. So, anyway.
I know. I want to see that. I haven't yet.
Yeah, and I've seen it twice, but like, again, older kids. And but I'm like blaming it on my kids. I'm like, oh yeah, the kids. And
You're like,
meanwhile, I'm
hey, what are you doing
Poppy's
tonight?
there. Yeah, I know. I'm so pathetic. I really am. I'm like, anyway. All right. Well, thank you. This has been amazing. And please, I will link all of Tina's various links below. And please, if you're not already following her on YouTube, follow her on YouTube.
Thank you.
She is fantastic. And if you're on Instagram, follow her there. All the places, and make sure you check out her podcast as well. It's really great. So
Thank
I
you so
appreciate
much.
you, and I'm
Same.
anxiously going to be watching to see what comes up on your top 10.
My little selfies with the dumb book.
I know all about it,
I know.
and taking
No.
500 of them to get one picture. Yep,
Well, it's getting
we all do it.
harder. The more years I'm on Instagram, I'm like, this is different. Like, I'm gonna just filter this, maybe. I don't know, but anyway, I digress.
I know. How can we be creative, and how can I have more forehead showing every day? So I
100% with the millennial angle they call it, where we're holding the camera like above our heads to look thinner.
Yes, I actually said to my daughter last night, I might need you to do a little. Do you have any base you can use on my face? And she's like, sit down. And like she was literally, and all for like a 10-second video I was doing for somebody. But my daughter was totally my makeup artist last night, which I appreciate.
Listen, I am all for that. I love it. All right, thank you for having me.
All right, talk to you later.
Bye.